The screaming started at exactly 7:43 a.m. I was pruning the white roses near the mansion's main entrance when the sound pierced through the morning air like a siren. It wasn't the first time I'd heard 8-year-old Sophia Blackwood's voice echo through the Blackwood estate. But this morning felt different, more desperate, more broken. I set down my gardening shears and looked up at the second-floor window, just in time to see a crystal vase fly through the air, shattering against the marble fountain below. The pieces scattered like tears across the perfectly manicured lawn I'd spent 2 weeks perfecting. "I hate you! I hate everyone!" Sophia's voice cracked with a pain that no 8-year-old should carry. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see a woman in an expensive navy suit running down the hallway, her perfectly styled blonde hair disheveled, her briefcase clutched against her chest like armor. Dr. Margaret Wellington, child psychologist from Harvard, the 47th professional to attempt taming the Blackwood heiress. She burst through the front door, her face flushed with humiliation and defeat. "Mr. Blackwood," she called out, her voice shaking. "I cannot work under these conditions. That child threw paint at my Chanel suit, locked me in a closet for 2 hours, and called me names that would make a sailor blush. She's not just difficult, she's dangerous." Robert Blackwood emerged from his home office, his $1,000 suit wrinkled, his usually perfect hair hanging in his eyes. At 42, he'd built a tech empire worth $12 billion, but he looked like a man who'd lost everything. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hands trembled slightly as he reached for his checkbook. "Dr. Wellington, please. I'll double your fee. Triple it. She's been through a lot since her mother—" "Mr. Blackwood, no amount of money is worth this. Your daughter needs intensive therapy, possibly medication, maybe even boarding school. I've worked with troubled children for 20 years, but Sophia—" Dr. Wellington shook her head, backing toward her BMW. "She's beyond my expertise." As her car disappeared down the winding driveway, Robert Blackwood stood alone on his marble steps, the weight of failure crushing his shoulders. I'd seen that. Look before, in my own mirror, 3 years ago, when the doctors told me my wife Sarah had 6 months to live. I knew I should focus on my work. I was just the gardener, hired 2 weeks ago to maintain the estate's 30-acre grounds. But something about the silence that followed the chaos made me look up at Sophia's window again. There she was, pressed against the glass, her small face streaked with tears, watching another adult walk away from her life. My daughter Emma had looked exactly the same way. "Marcus!" Robert's voice startled me back to reality. He was walking across the lawn, his Italian leather shoes crushing the delicate petals that had fallen from the roses. "Marcus Rivera, right? You've been here. 2 weeks? Yes, sir, since October 1st. I stood brushing dirt from my work jeans. At 35, I'd learned to read people quickly, a skill that had served me well as a single father and through the hardest years of my life." Robert stopped. In front of me, his eyes darting nervously toward the house. "You have a daughter, don't you? I remember from your employment application. Emma, she's 7. I didn't mention the cancer. I didn't mention the experimental treatment we couldn't afford. I didn't mention the medical bills that kept me awake at night. And she listens to you." I almost smiled. "Most of the time, she's a good kid, just processing a lot." Robert ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that made him look younger, more vulnerable. "Marcus, I'm going to ask you something that might sound insane, but I'm desperate. Sophia has driven away every nanny, tutor, therapist, and child specialist I've hired. The board is questioning my ability to manage my own family, let alone a company. My reputation is—" He trailed off, staring at the shattered vase pieces. "I've tried everything, military-style discipline, gentle parenting approaches, even bringing in specialists from Switzerland. Nothing works. But just now, watching you work out here, I noticed something. Sir? She stops screaming when you're in the garden. The last 2 weeks, whenever you're outside her window, she gets quiet. She watches you." I glanced up at the window. Sophia was still there, her dark eyes fixed on our conversation. "What are you asking me, Mr. Blackwood?" Robert reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. His hands shook as he began writing. "I'm asking you to try something no one else has been able to do. Spend time with Sophia, not as a therapist or a tutor, just be around her. See if whatever magic you have with your own daughter works with mine." He tore off the check and handed it to me. My eyes widened. $50,000, more money than I'd see in 2 years of gardening work. "Mr. Blackwood, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not qualified to—" "Marcus," his voice cracked. "I'll be honest with you. I'm not just offering this money for Sophia. I know about Emma's condition. I know about the experimental treatment at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia that your insurance won't cover. I know you've been looking for ways to pay for it." My chest tightened. "How do you—" "I run background checks on everyone who works on my property. I also know you're a good father who would do anything for his daughter. That's exactly what I need for mine." The check felt heavy in my hands. $50,000 would cover Emma's treatment and then some. But taking money to help a troubled child felt wrong, like I was profiting from pain. "I don't know anything about dealing with behavioral problems, Mr. Blackwood. I'm just a—" "You're a father." Robert's voice was firm now, almost commanding. "That's more qualification than anyone else I've hired has had. And if you can help Sophia, if you can break through to her, I'll pay for Emma's entire treatment, plus a $100,000 bonus." The world stopped. Emma's face flashed in. My mind, pale from the chemotherapy that wasn't working, brave smile when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she still asked when Mommy was coming home, even though Sarah had been gone for 3 years. "What exactly would you want me to do?" "Whatever you think is best. Spend time with her, talk to her, just don't give up on her like everyone else has." I looked up at the window again. Sophia was gone. "I need to think about this, Mr. Blackwood." "Of course, but Marcus—" He paused, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Please don't take too long. I'm running out of options, and Sophia, she's running out of hope." That evening I sat at my kitchen table staring at the check. Emma's medical bills spread around me like a paper mountain of impossible dreams. The experimental treatment could save her life, but it cost more than I'd make in 5 years. The choice should have been simple, but nothing felt simple when it came to playing with other people's children. Emma walked into the kitchen, her bald head covered by a pink beanie I'd bought to match her favorite stuffed elephant. At 7, she was small for her age, made even smaller by the illness that was stealing her childhood one day at a time. "Daddy, why do you look sad?" I folded the check and pulled her onto my lap. "Just thinking about work stuff, sweetheart." "Is it about the sick little girl?" "What sick little girl?" Emma's eyes, still bright despite everything, looked up at me with the wisdom that sick children develop too early. "At the big house where you work, I heard you talking to Uncle David about a little girl who's angry because she misses her mommy, like I miss mine sometimes." My brother David had picked up Emma from school that afternoon while I worked late. I hadn't realized she'd overheard our conversation. "What do you think about that little girl, Em?" Emma was quiet for a moment, her small fingers tracing patterns on my work shirt. "I think she probably needs a friend. When I'm angry about Mommy being gone, you sit with me and let me be angry. Maybe she just needs someone to sit with her, out of the mouths of babes." The next morning I arrived at the Blackwood estate with a decision. Robert met me at the garden shed, his eyes hopeful but guarded. "I'll try," I told him, "but I do this my way. No cameras in the room when I'm with Sophia, no time limits, and no expectations. If she wants me to leave, I leave. If she wants to be angry, she can be angry." "Deal?" Relief flooded Robert's face. "Deal. She's in the playroom on the 2nd floor. The stairs are— I know where it is." I'd studied the mansion's layout over the past 2 weeks, noting which windows belonged to which rooms, where Sophia spent most of her time. "Marcus," Robert called as I headed toward the house. "Thank you for trying." I climbed the marble staircase, each step echoing through the vast foyer. The Blackwood mansion was a monument to success. Crystal chandeliers, oil paintings worth more than most people's houses, furniture that belonged in museums. But it felt cold, empty, like a beautiful tomb. The playroom door was slightly ajar. I could hear movement inside, but no voices. I knocked gently. "Go away." Sophia's voice was hoarse, probably from screaming. "I don't want another stupid therapist." "I'm not a therapist," I called through the door. "I'm Marcus. I take care of the flowers outside your window." Silence. "Can I come in? I brought something to show you." "No, go away or I'll throw something at you." I sat down in the hallway, my back against the wall opposite her door. "Okay, I'll just sit out here for a while. Is that all right?" More silence. Then the soft sound of footsteps approaching the door. "Why aren't you going away?" Her voice was quieter now, confused. "Because I don't really have anywhere else to be right now. My daughter Emma is at school. Your dad is in his office, and the flowers don't need watering until this afternoon." "You have a daughter?" "I do. She's 7, just a little younger than you." The door opened a crack. One dark eye peered out at me. Sophia Blackwood was beautiful in the way children are before life teaches them to be guarded. Wild, dark hair, expressive eyes, a face that could light up a room when she smiled. But there was something brittle about her, like she was holding herself together with pure will. Is she mean like me? The question broke my heart. "You're not mean, Sophia. You're hurt. There's a difference." She opened the door wider but stayed in the doorway. She was wearing an expensive dress that had seen better days, wrinkled, with what looked like paint stains on the sleeves. "Everyone says I'm mean. They say I'm impossible." "What do you say?" "I say they're stupid and I hate them." I nodded seriously. "That sounds exhausting." For the first time, Sophia looked surprised. "What? Hating people all the time, being angry every day. It must be really tiring." She considered this, her head tilted to one side. "It is tired. But if I stop being angry, then what? Then I'll be sad instead. And sad hurts more." I understood. Oh, how I understood. "Can I tell you a secret, Sophia?" She stepped closer, curiosity winning over caution. "Sometimes I'm angry too. Really, really angry. And you know what I learned?" "What?" "It's okay to be angry. But it's also okay to let someone sit with you while you're angry, so you don't have to carry it all by yourself." Sophia stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly sat down on the floor across from me, her legs crossed underneath her expensive dress. "What did you bring to show me?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small digital photo frame, a gift from Emma's teacher when she'd had to miss school for treatments. Pictures of my garden at home. Emma helped me plant it after her mom died. Sophia's eyes widened. Her mom died 3 years ago. Emma was really angry for a while. She threw things and yelled and told everyone she hated them too. What happened to her mom? She got sick, like some people do. It wasn't anyone's fault, but Emma thought it was hers for a long time. I turned on the photo frame and handed it to Sophia. Images cycled through. Emma planting seeds, watering small sprouts, harvesting cherry tomatoes, both of us covered in dirt and grinning. "She looks happy," Sophia said softly. "She is now." It took time. How much time? She still has sad days, but the angry days are fewer now. Sophia studied the pictures intently. "Why did you plant a garden?" "Because Emma needed something to grow, something beautiful that she could take care of, something that wouldn't leave." The tears started slowly, just one rolling down Sophia's cheek, then another. Then the dam broke completely, and she sobbed with the force of 3 years of unexpressed grief. I didn't move to comfort her. I didn't tell her to stop crying, or that everything would be okay. I just sat there and let her feel what she needed to feel. When the storm passed, she wiped her nose on her dress sleeve and looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "My mommy isn't coming back either." "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry." Everyone acts like I should be okay now. But I'm not okay. You don't have to be okay yet. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, the photo frame cycling through pictures of life growing from dirt, of beauty emerging from loss. Marcus? Yeah? Can you teach me how to grow something? And that's how it started. Not with discipline or therapy or behavioral modification techniques, with dirt under our fingernails and seeds that held the promise of tomorrow. Hey, before we continue this incredible journey, I need to share something with you. If you're watching this story and finding yourself rooting for Marcus and Sophia, I know exactly why. It's because we all have moments where we feel misunderstood, where we're dealing with pain that others can't see, or where we're trying to be the person someone else needs us to be. This story is about more than just a gardener and a troubled child. It's about the power of seeing people for who they really are, not who the world tells us they should be. It's about second chances, unexpected connections, and the beautiful truth that sometimes the most profound healing happens in the quietest moments. If this story is touching your heart, please hit that like button. It tells me you want to see more stories like this one. And if you know someone who needs to hear about the power of patience and understanding, share this with them. Now let me tell you what happened next, because Sophia's transformation was just beginning, and what Marcus discovered about her abilities was going to shock everyone. Over the next week, our routine developed naturally. Every morning after the estate's chaos died down, usually after another professional fled the premises, I would find Sophia in her playroom or wandering the mansion's halls like a small ghost. Instead of forcing conversation, I simply invited her to join me in the gardens. The first few days, she just watched from the terrace as I worked. But gradually, curiosity overcame her carefully constructed walls. She started asking questions about the plants, about why some flowers needed more water than others, about how tiny seeds could become something beautiful. "Marcus, why do the roses have thorns?" she asked on Thursday morning, crouching beside me as I pruned the white climbing roses near the house. "To protect themselves," I said, showing her how to handle the stems safely. "Sometimes beautiful things need armor." She considered this seriously. "Do I have thorns? What do you think?" "I think my thorns are really big and sharp, and I use them to hurt people before they can hurt me." "And how's that working out for you?" Sophia was quiet for a long moment, her small fingers tracing the edge of a rose petal. Lonely. That afternoon, she asked if she could help me plant new bulbs for next spring's tulip garden. As we worked side by side, our hands dirty and our knees grass-stained, she began to talk. Really talk. She told me about her mother, Elena, who had died in a car accident 2 years earlier. How Elena used to read her stories every night and sing Spanish lullabies that made her feel safe. How the house felt empty without her mother's laughter echoing through the halls. "Daddy works all the time now," Sophia said, carefully placing a bulb in the soil I'd prepared. "I think he doesn't want to be in the house because everything reminds him of Mommy too." "What reminds you of her the most?" "The music room. She used to play piano and teach me songs. Daddy locked it after she died. He said it was too painful." I filed that information away, understanding that some wounds needed air to heal, not darkness. But it was Friday that everything changed. We were in the greenhouse potting small seedlings that would eventually become next summer's flower beds, when Sophia started speaking in what sounded like perfect Italian. "Scusi, posso aiutare con I fiori?" she said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Sorry, I don't know why I said that." "Did you just ask if you could help with the flowers? In Italian?" Her eyes widened. "You understood me?" "A little. I learned some Italian from my grandmother." "But Sophia, where did you learn to speak like that?" I don't know. Sometimes words just come out in different languages. It makes people think I'm weird." Over the next hour, as we worked together, Sophia unconsciously slipped between English, Spanish, and Italian with a fluency that was remarkable for an 8-year-old. When I gently asked about it, she shrugged. Mummy spoke Spanish to me sometimes, and there was a lady from Italy who used to clean the house. She taught me words while she worked, and I watched shows in different languages because they're less boring. How many languages do you understand? I don't know. Maybe 5, 6? Words just stick in my head. That evening I stayed late to update Robert on our progress. I found him in his study, surrounded by papers and looking exhausted. "She's been different this week," he said before I could speak. "Quieter, but not angry quiet. Thoughtful quiet. What did you do?" "Listened. Gave her something to take care of. Treated her like a person instead of a problem." Robert leaned back in his chair. "The last 3 days she hasn't had a single meltdown. No throwing things, no screaming, no locking people in closets. My assistant actually made it through an entire day without hiding in the bathroom." "Robert, can I ask you something? How much do you know about Sophia's intellectual abilities?" "What do you mean? Has she ever been tested, evaluated for academic placement?" Robert looked confused. "She's 8. We tried traditional schooling, but her behavior made it impossible. Why?" I told him about the languages, about the way she absorbed information like a sponge, about how she'd started explaining complex botanical concepts to me using vocabulary that most adults didn't possess. "I think Sophia isn't just acting out because she's grieving," I said carefully. "I think she's bored out of her mind. Her brain is working on a level that no one's recognized, and all that intellectual energy is being channeled into destruction instead of creation." Robert stared at me. "Are you saying she's gifted?" "I'm saying she might be exceptional, and exceptional children without appropriate challenges often become what adults label as behavioral problems." That weekend, Robert arranged for Dr. Patricia Chen, a specialist in gifted children, to visit the estate. But instead of the usual formal testing environment, I suggested something different. "Let her show you what she can do naturally," I told Dr. Chen. "Don't test her, just spend time with her." On Saturday morning, Dr. Chen joined us in the gardens. Within an hour, she was watching in amazement as Sophia switched effortlessly between 6 languages, solved mathematical problems in her head that challenged most middle schoolers, and demonstrated an understanding of plant biology that was college level. "Marcus," Dr. Chen pulled me aside while Sophia was showing off her knowledge of photosynthesis. "This child is profoundly gifted. We're talking about intellectual abilities in the 99.9th percentile. She's probably been frustrated and understimulated for years. What does that mean for her education? It means she needs curriculum designed for children with IQs in the 160+ range. Advanced mathematics, multiple language instruction, complex problem-solving challenges. Her previous behavior problems weren't defiance, they were intellectual starvation." That afternoon, Dr. Chen sat down with Robert and laid out a comprehensive plan for Sophia's education. Private tutors who specialized in gifted children, enrollment in advanced online programs, opportunities to interact with intellectual peers through specialized summer programs. But most importantly, Dr. Chen emphasized, she needs emotional support to process her grief while her mind is being properly challenged. Marcus has created exactly the right environment for both. As Dr. Chen prepared to leave, she asked to speak with me privately. "Marcus, I've been working with gifted children for 20 years. What you've accomplished with Sophia in just 1 week is remarkable. Have you ever considered working in this field professionally? I'm just a gardener who got lucky. No, you're a natural educator with intuitive understanding of how exceptional minds work. If you're interested, I run a training program for people who want to work with gifted children. The pay is significantly better than gardening, and the impact you could have." She handed me her card. "Think about it." Sunday evening, as I was preparing to leave for the weekend, Sophia ran out to the garden where I was putting away tools. Marcus. Marcus, wait! She was breathless, her hair flying behind her as she raced across the lawn. In her hands, she carried a small pot with a tiny green sprout pushing through the soil. Look, the seed we planted on Tuesday, it's growing. I knelt down to examine the pot. Sure enough, the morning glory seed we'd planted together was sending up its first tentative shoot. It's beautiful, Sophia. You took really good care of it. I watered it every day and put it in the sunshine and talked to it just like you told me. She beamed with pride. Marcus, do you think I could have my own garden? Like a real one? I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. Where would you want it? By Mommy's music room window, so when the flowers bloom, she can see them from wherever she is now. My heart clenched. I think your mom would love that. Will you help me design it, please? Of course. As we walked back toward the house, Sophia slipped her small hand into mine. It was the first time she'd initiated physical contact with anyone since I'd started working with her. Marcus. Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for not giving up on me like everyone else did. Sophia, I need you to understand something. I didn't fix you because you weren't broken. I just helped you find better ways to use all that amazing energy in your head and heart. Is that what good dads do? The question hit me like a physical blow. Yeah, that's what good dads do. Then maybe you could teach my daddy how to do that too. Monday morning brought unexpected visitors. I arrived at the estate to find 3 black SUVs parked in the circular driveway and men in suits standing near the front entrance. Robert met me at the garden shed, his face pale and stressed. Marcus, we have a problem. The State Department of Children and Family Services is here. Someone filed a complaint about Sophia's welfare. What kind of complaint? Anonymous tip claiming she's being neglected, that her behavioral problems indicate abuse or inadequate care. They want to interview her and... Robert ran his hands through his hair. They're talking about temporary placement while they investigate. My blood ran cold. Taking Sophia away from her home, from the progress she'd made, would destroy everything we'd built together. Where is she? Locked in her room. She heard them asking about her and completely shut down. She won't talk to anyone, won't come out. They're giving her 1 hour to cooperate before they... He couldn't finish the sentence. I walked into the house and climbed the stairs to Sophia's room. The social workers were standing in the hallway, consulting their tablets and speaking in low voices. They looked up as I approached. Sir, you need to stay away from the child during our investigation, one of them said. I'm Marcus Rivera. I work with Sophia. Are you licensed in child psychology or education? No, I'm a gardener. But I'm also the only person she trusts right now. A tall woman with steel-gray hair stepped forward. Mr. Rivera, I'm Sarah Matthews, the lead investigator. We've received concerning reports about this child's behavior and her father's inability to manage her care appropriately. What specific reports? Violent outbursts, destruction of property, inability to maintain stable educational or care relationships. The anonymous caller claimed the child was being exposed to inappropriate disciplinary methods. I understood. Someone, probably one of the fired nannies or therapists, had retaliated by making false accusations. Ms. Matthews, those behaviors stopped over a week ago. Sophia has been making remarkable progress. That's not what our file indicates. According to our information, she had another violent episode just yesterday. Yesterday, she planted flowers and did mathematics problems for fun. Someone is lying to you. Through Sophia's door, I could hear soft crying. The sound was devastating. I need to talk to her, I said. Mr. Rivera, I cannot allow 5 minutes. Let me bring her out to talk to you willingly, or you can traumatize an 8-year-old who's already lost her mother by forcing your way into her safe space. Ms. Matthews considered this, then nodded. 5 minutes. I knocked softly on Sophia's door. Sophia, it's Marcus.
Can I come in?
They want to take me away! Her voice was muffled but full of terror. I know, sweetheart. Can you open the door so we can talk about it? The lock clicked, and the door opened just a crack. Sophia's face was red and swollen from crying. I didn't do anything bad. I've been good. I've been growing things and learning languages and helping you with the flowers. I know you have. And I'm going to make sure they know that too. What if they don't believe you? Then we'll show them. I knelt down to her eye level. Sophia, I need you to be brave for a few minutes. There are some people who need to see how amazing you really are. Can you do that? She wiped her nose on her sleeve. Will you stay with me? Every second, we walked out into the hallway together. The three social workers looked at Sophia with expressions ranging from professional sympathy to barely concealed skepticism. Hello, Sophia, Ms. Matthews said in an overly cheerful voice. We're here to talk to you about your home and make sure you're safe and happy, Sophia. Pressed closer to my side but didn't hide behind me. I'm safe with Marcus and Daddy, she said, quietly. Can you tell us about your days here? What do you do for fun? Instead of answering with words, Sophia looked up at me. Can I show them the garden? 20 minutes later, the three social workers stood in the middle of Sophia's small garden plot, watching in amazement as she explained the growing cycle of different plants in 4 different languages, solved multiplication problems related to garden spacing, and demonstrated her understanding of complex concepts like pH balance and companion planting. She designed this entire garden layout herself, I explained, using mathematical principles to calculate spacing and seasonal bloom times to ensure continuous color throughout the growing season. Ms. Matthews made notes on her tablet, her earlier skepticism replaced by professional interest. Sophia, she said, can you tell me about your feelings? When you're sad or angry, what do you do? I used to throw things and scream because the angry feelings were too big for my body, Sophia answered thoughtfully. But Marcus taught me that feelings are like water. They have to go somewhere. So now I dig in the dirt when I'm mad, or I water the plants when I'm sad, or I learn new words when I'm excited. And how do the adults here treat you? Marcus listens to me. He doesn't try to make me stop feeling things. He just helps me feel them in better ways. And Daddy is learning how to talk to me again, instead of just buying me things when I'm upset. The interview continued for another hour. Sophia answered every question with honesty and maturity that impressed the social workers. She showed them her room, her books, her art supplies, and the photo album she'd been creating of her garden's progress. Finally, Ms. Matthews asked to speak with Robert and me privately. Mr. Blackwood, I owe you an apology. The complaints we received painted a very different picture of your daughter's situation. What we've observed today is a bright, articulate, well-cared-for child who has clearly been receiving appropriate support. What about the anonymous complaint? Robert asked. Based on what we've seen, I believe someone with a personal grievance against your family made false accusations. Unfortunately, this happens more often than we'd like, especially in high-profile cases. She turned to me. Mr. Rivera, I'm curious about your background. You've clearly had a remarkable impact on Sophia's development. I'm just a father who understands what it's like to watch a child struggle with loss. Have you considered becoming a licensed family counselor or educational consultant? Your natural abilities are extraordinary. After the social workers left, Robert, Sophia, and I sat on the terrace overlooking the gardens. The afternoon sun painted everything in golden light, and for the first time since I'd started working there, the Blackwood estate felt peaceful. I was so scared, Sophia said, curled up between Robert and me on the outdoor sofa. I thought they were going to take me away from my garden and my flowers, and she looked up at me. And you? They weren't taking you anywhere, sweetheart. You're exactly where you belong. Robert cleared his throat. Marcus, I owe you more than money for what you've done for Sophia, and for what you've taught me about my own daughter. These past 2 weeks, I've seen sides of her I forgot existed. She was always there, Robert. She just needed someone to see past the thorns to the flower underneath. I want to offer you something more permanent. Not just as Sophia's. I don't even know what to call what you do. As part of our family. A full-time position helping me understand how to be the father Sophia needs, how to challenge her mind while supporting her heart. The offer was tempting. The money would solve all my problems, give Emma the treatment she needed, provide security I'd never had. But it felt too much like charity, too much like being rescued instead of earning my way. I appreciate the offer, Robert. But I think what Sophia needs now is to know that the people in her life choose to be there, not because they're paid to stay. Then what do you want? I looked at Sophia, who was listening intently to our conversation with the seriousness that gifted children bring to adult discussions. I want to keep being her friend. I want to help her build her garden and learn new languages and discover what makes her amazing brain happy. And I want to do it because she's worth it, not because there's a paycheck attached. But what about Emma's treatment? The question hung in the air. I'd been wrestling with this for days, knowing that turning down Robert's money might mean limiting Emma's options. I'm going to apply for Dr. Chen's training program. If I can become licensed to work with gifted children, I can build a career that pays well while doing something meaningful. It might take longer, but it will be something I earned. Sophia sat up suddenly. Marcus, what's wrong with Emma? Is she sick like my mommy was? I'd been dreading this question, not wanting to burden Sophia with more sadness. She has cancer, sweetheart. She's been fighting it for a while now. Is she going to die? We're doing everything we can to help her get better. Sophia was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the same serious consideration she gave to everything else. Daddy, she said finally, Emma is Marcus's daughter, right? And Marcus helps me feel better when I'm sad or scared? Yes, then we should help Emma feel better too. Because that's what families do. Robert and I exchanged glances over her head. What are you thinking, princess? I'm thinking we should pay for Emma's medicine. Not to pay Marcus, but to help Emma. Because she's 7 and she shouldn't have to be sick. And if we can help, then we should, out of the mouths of babes. Robert smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. You know what, Sophia? You're absolutely right. Marcus, I know you want to earn your own way, and I respect that. But will you let us help Emma, not as payment, but as a gift from one father to another? The lump in my throat made it hard to speak. Robert, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. We're offering. Sophia's right. This is what families do. Are we a family? Sophia asked, looking between Robert and me. We're something, I said, putting my arm around her small shoulders. Maybe not traditional, but definitely something special. 3 months later, Emma's latest scans showed the experimental treatment was working. The tumors were shrinking, her energy was returning, and her hair was starting to grow back in soft brown curls that caught the light when she laughed. I'd started Dr. Chen's training program and discovered that working with gifted children was everything I'd never known I wanted to do. The combination of intellectual challenge and emotional support felt like coming home to a career I was meant for. Sophia had her own garden now, a magnificent 1/4-acre plot that showcased her mathematical precision and artistic eye. She'd also started working with advanced tutors who could keep up with her brilliant mind, and she'd made friends with other gifted children through Dr. Chen's weekend programs. Most importantly, she and Robert had found their way back to each other. They'd reopened Elena's music room, and Sophia was learning to play the piano pieces her mother had loved. The house was filled with music again, with laughter, with the sound of a family healing itself one day at a time. On a warm Saturday afternoon in early spring, I was teaching Emma and Sophia how to identify different types of roses when Robert joined us in the garden. He'd changed too, less stressed, more present, more willing to get his expensive clothes dirty, playing with his daughter. Marcus, he said, I've been thinking about something Dr. Chen mentioned, about starting a school. What kind of school? One for gifted children whose intellectual needs aren't being met in traditional settings. Children like Sophia who are labeled as behavioral problems when they're really just brilliant minds looking for appropriate challenges. The idea was ambitious and exciting. A place where exceptional children could learn at their own pace, where emotional intelligence was valued alongside academic achievement, where being different was celebrated instead of pathologized. It would need teachers who understand how these kids think, Robert continued. People who can see potential instead of problems. It sounds amazing, but why are you telling me? Because I want you to help me design it. And eventually, when you finish your training, I want you to run it. I looked around the garden where it all started, where a lonely, angry little girl had learned that she wasn't broken, just misunderstood. Where a grieving widower had discovered that his pain could become purpose. Where 3 people had found their way to something that looked remarkably like family. I think Elena would love this idea, Sophia said softly. She'd been listening to our conversation while carefully tending to a new row of seedlings. She always said that children are like flowers. They just need the right conditions to bloom. Emma, who'd been quietly absorbing every word with the intensity that comes from understanding how precious life really is, looked up from the marigolds she'd been planting. Daddy, does this mean Sophia and I can go to school together? If you want to, sweetheart, I want to. Sophia's teaching me Spanish, and I'm teaching her how to be brave when you're scared. We make a good team, and they did. Just like Robert and I had learned to make a good team, combining resources and wisdom to build something neither of us could have created alone. The Blackwood Rivera Academy for Gifted Children opened 2 years later in a beautiful building designed to look more like a garden than a traditional school. Our motto, suggested by Sophia herself, was inscribed in marble above the main entrance. Every child is a flower waiting for the right season to bloom. On opening day, I stood in the main hallway watching children who'd been labeled as difficult, impossible, or broken discover that they were actually extraordinary. Teachers who understood that intellectual giftedness often came wrapped in emotional sensitivity created classrooms where both mind and heart were nurtured. Sophia, now 10 and fluent in 8 languages, served as our student ambassador, showing new families around and explaining our philosophy with the wisdom of someone who'd lived the transformation we offered. Emma, cancer-free for 18 months and growing stronger every day, had become the school's unofficial mascot, proof that with the right support, even the most challenging circumstances could be overcome. And Robert had discovered that his greatest success wasn't the billions he'd made in technology, but the school that gave exceptional children a place to be themselves. As I watched our students work in the greenhouse classroom we'd built in honor of Elena Blackwood, I thought about the morning that changed everything. When a desperate father had offered a struggling gardener an impossible job, neither of us could have imagined where that moment would lead. Sometimes the most important work we do looks nothing like what we planned. Sometimes the people who change our lives come disguised as problems we need to solve. And sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow from the richest soil, the kind that's been broken down and built back up through loss, hope, and the courage to keep planting seeds even when we can't see what will grow. Mr. Marcus, a small voice called from across the greenhouse. A 6-year-old student was holding up a pot with a tiny green sprout pushing through the soil. "Look, my kindness seed is growing." I knelt down beside him, examining the small miracle of life emerging from darkness. "It's beautiful," I told him. "You took really good care of it. I watered it every day and put it in the sunshine and talked to it, just like you taught us." He beamed with pride. "Mr. Marcus, do you think kindness grows the same way as flowers?" "What do you think?" "I think if you take care of it every day and give it sunshine and talk to it nice, it gets bigger and bigger until everyone can see how beautiful it is. Out of the mouths of babes." As I helped him transfer his seedling to a larger pot, I caught sight of Sophia and Emma through the greenhouse windows. They were sitting under Eleanor's memorial rose garden, heads bent together over a book, completely absorbed in whatever story they were sharing. 2 little girls who'd both faced loss, both struggled with challenges that seemed too big for their small bodies, both found their way to healing through the simple act of someone believing in their potential instead of focusing on their problems. The most important lesson I learned from Sophia Blackwood wasn't about gardening or gifted education or even about the power of patience with difficult children. It was about the profound truth that everyone, every single person, no matter how challenging or impossible they seem, is carrying something beautiful inside them. Something that just needs the right conditions, the right support, and the right believer to help it grow. Sometimes that believer is a teacher or a therapist or a trained professional, and sometimes it's just a gardener who understands that the most beautiful flowers often have the sharpest thorns, and that's perfectly okay. Because in the end, we're all just seeds waiting for someone to see our potential, plant us in good soil, and believe we're worth the time it takes to bloom.